I think where I want to start with this podcast, perhaps obviously, Connor Tracy, my business partner, told me he started as one of your clients when you were 16 years old.
Correct.
That is a phenomenally young age to start, and you were still in full-time education at the time. So tell us about how you started in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think it was a desire for cash, actually. The truth is, it was a desire for cash. You know, you get the wishy-washy story, but I get the impression that you're bullshit-free, Alex.
Yeah.
So
Like to be.
the reality was I always wanted to buy my own things without having to ask for permission or ask for a lend. And, you know, I always saved up any birthday money and stuff like that. I was buying my own, whatever I wanted, really.
What were the kind of things that were driving that passion for cash at the time?
Well, it was kind of hand-in-hand obsession with streetwear, fashion, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was also an income generation for me, because it was like, okay, I want this rare piece, one to wear, I'll buy another one to sell, and hopefully the profit will cover the cost of the garment itself, whatever I was buying. So I started off in the usual buying and selling shoes, rare clothes, etc. Chewing gum to begin with, right?
Chewing gum?
Yeah. Costco, it was like £7, you got 30 packets or something like that. £1 a pack, it's a nice...
Selling it at school?
Yeah, £23 profit, happy with that.
What sort of age was that when you were doing this?
15.
15.
It was all in a pretty short window.
Yeah. There must have been a trigger though. You know, are your parents entrepreneurial? Was there anything there, or?
I would say actually, so my dad was a salesman, pharmaceutical sales, B2B, and my mum just worked as a school secretary. I would say my brother actually, despite not being at the time in business or in any entrepreneurship, any entrepreneurial endeavors.
Yeah.
But he was always like, my brother was always known in the family as, he's got a business idea. He's got a business. And I became the person he would bounce this sort of stuff off. So that sort of inspired me to keep my own kind of radar open for opportunities for generating cash. But when I was 15, out of boredom playing video games, stumbled across web design, played around with that. It was actually the second time I'd looked at it, because beforehand I'd looked at trying to make a website for the trading of the shoes and the streetwear. In fact, literally trading, because you would get these messages on Depop, and instead of, you know, I'll buy it off you, the negotiation, knock 20 quid off, whatever, people would say, I'll trade you my jacket plus give you £20. But there was no safe way of doing that. So there was a lot of trust that, first of all, you're getting the shipping label, but second of all, the package isn't going to be empty when it arrives, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they really couldn't cover you. Depop or these companies couldn't cover you for any of this nonsense. So I tried, but, you know, 14, 15 when I'm trying to build this website, plus having no legalities behind it to cover if anything went wrong.
How did you learn about building a website at that stage?
Just trial and error. It was a click and drag editor, so nothing dissimilar to PowerPoint, really.
Wix, so
it was Wix I used, yeah, exactly. And over time, just developed the skills on that. Built a website for my barber, who I'd been playing Fortnite with at the time. Got bored of Fortnite. We both went off, and I decided, let's invest my time, see what I can do that's maybe a bit creative. It was always a laptop thing I would do, unless it was the trading. But even at that, it was pulling up, when's the next drop coming? I was always quite techy, quite geeky, if you like. I liked my video games, as we've just touched on. So built the website for the barber. She asked for a couple revisions, and to my surprise, after that, we had something launch ready, and actually better than some of the websites that other barbershops around the city had, which were probably made by professionals. So he gave me a bit of cash. I think he gave me 120 quid cash. I was shitting myself on the bus home with this little sachet of money on the way back. But over time, I was like, okay, who else can I make this for? So family, friends, who do we know that's got a business? You know, Mum, do you know anyone who needs a website? Dad, like, who can we go to? And over time, built that up to the point that at 16, when the summer break hit, I was pretty adamant it was what I was going to do, was digital marketing. And I was also pretty adamant that another year of exams, because by this point I'd sat national fives. I was pretty good. I got, I think, 4 A's, 3 B's.
Wow.
I mean, there was people with straight A's. It's not the most impressive, but
No, but
because of that,
it demonstrates that you had that sort of academic capabilities that you could have taken on to the next level.
and I think I could have probably, if I'd applied myself more, and got the straight A's, but the problem was I was already getting this distraction from the side hustle.
Yeah.
So I had that conversation. The first big sale I made was, Mum, you need to let me leave school. That was my big opportunity to practice persuasion. And I got the buy-in, closed the deal.
How?
I think she could tell my conviction in it.
Yes.
And I think I put across the case that all that's going to happen here is I will be delaying the inevitable. So I can either start a year later with some hires under my belt, which, you know, as a mum, you want the safety net for your son.
Yeah.
But I think my dad, they're divorced. So it was kind of two different ears at the time and not a united conversation between them.
Sure.
But I think my dad could see straight off the bat that this is something I was capable of doing. And he was pretty much like, yeah, I think you should go for it. So it was really the sale was to sell my mum on it. And we managed that by, I guess, showing, first of all, some proof. I didn't go in there with no clients and say, I want to do web design.
Yeah.
By this point, I'd made maybe 4 or 5 websites. I'd started conversations in other areas of marketing as well. Like, oh, I'll do some social media for this joinery company. I'll do some Instagram pictures for the same barber. Like, I was trying to add more and more value. And this was, you know, at a time where I didn't know what businesses really needed. I was just going in with, what will they pay me to do and what am I going to be capable of delivering, you know?
And that's a really interesting point, you know, is that, you know, that there has to be a baptism of fire going on there when you're trying to build a business like that, because the first stage is usually to have an understanding of the business and what will, you know, drive their market. And so, you know, you must have had a lot to learn through that process.
100%. And the only way to do that was as much research as possible, you know, abundance of YouTube videos, pirated online courses, books, like all the knowledge I could consume, I would try and consume. And then the second part of that was practical application. Like, can we deliver this? Can we deliver this? And over time, right, because I was trying so many things, because I'd started, you know, I bought a camera to do videography. I upgraded my laptop to make the websites faster, more efficiently, and get a better picture of what we were doing. I tried, you know, the SEO, all of these different variables until I could really find the one that stuck as the income producing activity for the client. And that's the same thing, or obviously there's been evolutions to that, but that is what we do today now, is client acquisition as a service. So for me, it's no longer about your website looks really good. It's no longer about, you know, you got 10 likes. What we do is very strictly focused on, here's how much money you put into your advertising campaigns. Here's how many leads that generated. Here's how many your sales team closed. And here's, therefore, your return on investment. And if that return is lower than what they've spent,
well,
bye Flynn, right? So I very much understand the economics of, I have to make them more money than what they make me. I have to make them more money than what they pay me. And that's essentially the business has been, finding those efficiencies.
I mean, I hadn't thought about this previously, but it does strike me as an incredibly difficult business to put yourself in at the start of your journey. You know, as a young guy coming in, to not only have to understand the fundamentals of how to make your business work, but also have to understand the fundamentals of your client's business to be able to support them with a market and lead generation. So it's a huge undertaking.
Absolutely.
Actually. And one that must have been tough.
I've seen a lot of different businesses as well. To this day, we certainly now have particular clients. We're picky about who we'll bring on, where there's characteristics that they must fit to become a client of ours. But still to this day, we have clients in multiple niches, right? We have home services, we have cleaning products, we have agriculture, we have training and coaching, right? We have such a variety, and I've been able to see the back end of so many of these businesses. And it's kind of like, I like to see myself in the same way as someone bringing on an accountant would see them, in the sense of, I need full transparency of your numbers because my job is to bring those numbers up.
Yeah.
Accountant, bring the number, the expenditure down, right? Bring the tax bill down. So I've been able to learn actually a lot from how other businesses operate, what efficiencies, what are they doing wrong, which I can do better in my company, and just taking this overall picture of by this point must be more than 150 businesses that I've seen the back end of or worked with, and build mine around the downfalls of those and the successes of those, and learning from the mistakes that they personally have made.
I mean, I go back to my corporate time, and you know, I spent quite a bit of time doing mergers and acquisitions for the company that I worked for. It was an oil and gas company, and what I loved about it was getting to pull apart different businesses and see how they work, what drives them, understand, you know, the process flows within organizations and how they're making money. And it does seem sometimes like looking behind the curtain a little bit. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's something that really interests me. I mean, as a business, we have done a little bit of mergers and acquisitions. It's something that we probably will get back to, because, you know, it's also another massive opportunity, because within mergers and acquisitions, you can actually have the opportunity to buy and grow without significant amounts of cash, because everybody assumes if you're buying a business, you need to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds acquiring a business, but there can be a million different ways you structure an acquisition to do it. So I've always been massively interested in it, and I think through the business that you have, you must get a lot of really interesting insights, and I guess that to a degree must be part of the reason why you've come so far so quickly. You know, how old are you now?
20.
20.
21 next month.
I mean, it's just incredible how far you've come in a short period of time, and the level of experience you've got for your age. You know, I'm at an interesting kind of point with my stepson who's 14, obsessed with computer games.
Nice.
And he's smart, but he's not interested. You know, he'll occasionally have a bit of chat about business, and I'm trying to figure out how I get him to the next stage, because you could see he's got massive capability, but he just needs to apply himself. And the wonderful thing about your story is, you know, whilst it must have been a tough pill to swallow for your mum to say, right, Flynn, leave school.
Yeah.
What she's created is probably a much, much bigger learning opportunity for you, because you're pursuing something you're passionate about. You're going after something that you care about. So think of the hours you're going to put in that versus having to go to school and do a subject you're not fucking interested in.
Absolutely. Plus, even computing science at school, not relevant to today. Barely anything I've learned in computing science I apply through the web design world. And it was actually those sort of questions I was asking, because as you mentioned, when I met Connor and started working with Connor, I was still in education. I left very quickly after that. But it was questions I was asking to the so-called experts, right? The computing science teacher, who couldn't answer me any question about SEO, like how do I make this website appear higher on Google? Business teacher asking questions like, you know, when you'll probably have this, many examples across more than just business teachers. You get it probably with the, what are those different charities like the Prince's Trust and stuff like that. Some of them do have helpful assets and helpful people within them. Yeah. But if they were so successful and so knowledgeable, they wouldn't be teaching business.
It would be in that role, and I had exactly that conversation with Mark Laurie on my last podcast, where he had went to Business Gateway with his business plan, hoping to get some really good advice and be inspired by it. And the guy just started talking about the difference between a sole trader and a limited company. He's like, I know this shit. I don't need that help. I need someone to help me on my business. But it just goes back to, you know, taking advice from people that have never been where you want to go, and absolutely expecting them to give you solid advice is just naive.
I think at least once a year in my main pieces of content. So far, we've got 2 years in a row. A big principle I always drill into people is don't take advice from people who are not in the position you want to be in.
Well, I do want to talk to you about your 5 tips for success in 2024, because I watched that and I thought it was really valuable content for the listeners. So we'll get into that in a bit. I'm just keen to understand a little bit more about Mod Digital, your business.
Absolutely.
you know, kind of what digital marketing looks like in 2024, because, you know, for me, I am constantly confused by the level of new tools that are out there to support, you know, getting your brand out there, getting your name out there, marketing. You know, what strategies are working, and how do you keep up with it all? You know,
I think it's not like, a lot of people come to me and say, Flynn, what strategies should I be using now? What's the best tactic that we can apply right now? You know, what format of post is working on Instagram? And every single time I come to the same conclusion and I give them the same facts and evidence. Boil it back to what was working in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, before social media. Look at the psychological aspects, because for me, digital advertising is just sort of mass persuasion.
Yeah.
Right? So how can we persuade people? You know, how can we add urgency into our offers, into our marketing, into our, you know, landing pages, our deals? I always try and look at the pain points of the audience. Let me give you an example. Let's say, when was the last time you were unwell?
Just before Christmas.
And what were you feeling?
I had the flu.
You had the flu. So let's say there was the flu with a few extra steps, right? Let's say maybe you had a growth in your arm. Let's say maybe you woke up one morning and your voice was gone a little bit.
Yeah.
Now let's say you Google one of your symptoms and you get onto a landing page or a website, right, which says, 2 weeks ago, you probably were by water. You were probably at a lake. And then a week later, you start feeling a little bit of a sore pain in your arm. And then this morning you woke up and you couldn't really speak. And you're feeling some flu-like symptoms, right? Imagine everything that you were feeling was listed out there. Then it said, we've got a pill that can solve that.
Yeah.
You're going to buy the pill because they've outlined every single nuanced pain that you're feeling. So for me, it's like, let's not understand what creative we're going to use or what dimensions the video is going to have. Let's understand what the pain points are of our target customers. Let's describe them back to them in a way far more detailed than they even can, right? Yeah. Let's articulate it even better than they can. And because we know their problems so well, it's an automatic response from them that we must be able to solve those problems.
It's a really interesting point, and one that brings to mind one of my favorite books, which is Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And he talks a lot about, you know, the marketing of really successful brands over time, and the fact that, you know, most of them start with why, not what. And a lot of companies gravitate to the what when they're listing all the product features, the benefits of having the product. And the reality is, those are not the things that are selling products, because there are always very similar products in the market that are doing exactly the same thing. So if you focus on just the features and benefits, you know, you end up selling on price, which drives the price down. It commoditizes your product.
And when competitors come in, they drop their price, and it's a race to the bottom.
Exactly, and you're just killing the industry effectively. Where, you know, he compares it to brands like Apple, who have always been very good at focusing on the why. You know, when they were first marketing the iPod, the big marketing scheme was 1,000 songs in your pocket. Something that was completely understandable and something that would drive people to buy it. They're not interested in the features, they're interested in the why. You know, and they've been very good at that throughout it. They had a big marketing campaign where they said, you know, they had all these different people, and it was, I'm a Mac. And what they were trying to show was the types of people that are buying Mac, because you're buying into a lifestyle, you're buying into, you know, being part of this gang, the cult, you know, and then they compare that with I'm a PC, and it was always some boring old middle-aged fuddy-duddy that, you know. Because
what they were selling was not the... What they were selling was not the benefits, it wasn't the features. They probably, in those adverts, didn't list the battery life, or by that point it was probably still plug-in, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't list the response speed or anything like that. They showed the target customer what their dream version of themselves would be, the ideal person. They showed them who they don't want to be like, and they associated their product with the gap between not being who they are now or who they could be, and how to become the person that they dream of becoming. And another example of that pain-orientated marketing is toothpaste. When you go into the shelves, you look at the toothpaste, and it's like advanced whitening. And it's like for white teeth in 3 weeks, or use this if you're using braces, etc., etc. You look at the ingredients on the back, exact same. But the other one's 40 pence more. Or a pound extra. No difference in the product, but because the person thinks that it resonates with their pain point and what they truly want or think they need, they can charge a markup for it.
The toothpaste one is an interesting one because it's just a market that is horrendously cluttered. Colgate have got a page to describe all of the different products and what they do, just so consumers can understand, because there's so many options out there. You know, and again, I guess it's a market that's just got so many options that it can confuse consumers, you know, and then you get back to price. So on the digital market front, give me an example of a real success story you've had with a client where you've been able to see from start to finish how you've
absolutely
revolutionized their business.
So I'm under NDA not to tell the brand name.
No details,
Not the brand name. I can tell you they're in the agriculture industry, and they're selling a product for crops. I believe I can go that far. Okay. So not your typical case study. But when we started working together, they were on about 5K a month. It was near the infancy of their company. This was November 2021. And this is the big killer that I describe with every single business. The one thing, okay, so we've got the how, right? We've got the find the pain points, find how you can prove your product as a solution to those pain points, and find the right audience to describe those pain points to. That's sort of our how. But then we need to understand how we're going to scale that and build it into real success. So for every client, everyone who asks me, what should my ad budget be? I get that question all the time. Like, it's probably the number one question. And the answer is very difficult to give in terms of spend this per day. Because what we have to understand is kind of 3 metrics. We have to understand what their break-even costs are. So they sell the product for £500 and it costs them 250. So up until £250, they're essentially profitable, right? So that essentially says, as soon as we spend £251 on advertising, they're making a loss. So we need our break-even cost per acquisition, right? We can't spend more than £250 to acquire a customer or we're losing money. Then we need a target cost per acquisition. Okay, so we don't just want to break even. We want to make, double our money, triple our money. So if it's 250, let's say we want a 5x, target cost per acquisition is going to be £50. And that means we're going to get 5x our money on the profit, not the revenue. So we find those 2 numbers. Then what we have to actually do is deliver a real cost per acquisition. So we spend the money on the advertising. We spend £1,000 in a month, let's say, for example, and we acquire 100 customers. So it's £10 per customer. Great. Let's spend as many £10 as we've got, because we know that £10 is what it costs to acquire a customer. Whereas so many people focus on, okay, our followers have gone up by this much, or we've got this many leads, but then they don't track how many leads are closing. You could have 100 leads, but if only 5 of them close or 2 of them close, you're not going to make your money back. So we have to track the full spectrum and understand what that bottom line return is. And then when we have that number, it becomes a question of, okay, we got you 100 customers this month. How many could you get next month? How many can you attain? Like, how many could you take on sustainably without them losing quality of service?
But both in terms of your output and your ability to manage the cash flow of the market and spend.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, it's quite an interesting one. Do you find when that scales, how do the numbers tend to go? Do you tend to see a dilution in the spend per customer acquisition, or do you see it go up as you scale?
Yeah, this is a good point on that, because you sort of get to a point. So that customer, the case study I was going to give you, so 5,000 November 2021. Over time, they're scaling their operations. We are scaling the budget up and up till it's March 2023, we spend 30 grand on ads, and in the month alone of March 2023, they make back 615k.
Wow.
So they've gone from 5k, what's that, 15 months ago, something like that, to 600 grand.
Incredible.
Massive results. Now, not every penny.
You know, and that is a testament to the marketing, but you know, there is also a massive supply chain management and cash flow management situation going on there that they must have done well to you know, because a lot of people could double the client base tomorrow, even if you handed it to them, they just wouldn't be able to manage it. They wouldn't have the infrastructure in place to manage tracking all those clients or cash flow to get all the stock they need. And you know, I mean, that is a huge turnaround for that business.
Absolutely. And credit to the founder on that one for sure. You know, they managed their factories, but you know, we really kept in the loop as almost a growth partner, because we deliver that number to them. Here's your cost per acquisition. Here's how much it costs to get a customer. Here's the daily spend. So here's what we can estimate for this month. We do our forecasts, and they can say, okay, I'm ready to add an extra 20, 50, £100 per day onto that advertising spend.
Yeah.
Another case study is an insurance company that is fully telesales, but we get them all the phone numbers. And they've gone from February, so last month, last year, so February 2023, spending £20 a day to now spending over £1,000 a day on their leads, because we're getting them a ton of high quality leads. They phone them up, close the deal, ROI in the business straight away. But absolutely, operationally, and this is one of those good examples of I learn from these entrepreneurs, because I work closely in the numbers and the customer acquisition. I have to be in close communication of, let's make sure we're not amplifying shit here.
Yeah.
You know, we're selling it, right? Let's make sure the product is delivering what we're selling as well. So I have to keep an eye on all of the back. I'm almost like a kind of hidden director of the company, or a chief marketing officer with each of these clients who have a close relationship.
I guess it is just that you're building long-term relationships.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. And we made
client retention must be quite high in that business when you are working so closely.
Definitely, and it's our number one priority. In terms of our own advertising, we've got that scale, perhaps not issue, but it's the thing that we are focused mostly on right now. We're not advertising though, because we're getting enough referrals, because we deliver such a high quality caliber service, right? And the clients are incentivized through happiness, I suppose, to kind of pay it back to us.
I mean, I guess there's a level of scale where that might need to come back in again. So an example of this is our training business, where you know we're effectively teaching people property investment, but we're also sourcing the deals for them. We're mentoring them through the process. Now, we spend a lot of money every month on leads to get below market value property deals. That is a machine that's always ongoing. But to date, we haven't spent really any money on acquiring new training clients. Okay. Because, like you say, it's referrals. You know, it's someone recommends a friend, or you know, someone. We've actually found our kind of higher level consultancy clients are part of business networks where they speak to each other, and the amount of referrals we've had through that has been incredible. It's all been quite organic, but we're now at a stage where, because we have this deal machine and market and spend, and we have the opportunity to increase the market and spend and push out more deals, we need to make sure we balance that with a level of client. You know, it's a constant balance.
Take on the deals.
You know, if we have deals and no clients to sell it to, you know, it slows down the whole process, because then we have to put the deals to auction and it takes longer. So we're now at this tipping point where the deals are scaling much quicker than the clients. And we've got 70 odd clients now, but a lot of them have got to a position where they've had their deals, they've used their cash, they're waiting on refinance. So we're now having to take a step back and start looking at a lead generation process for that business, where up until this point of scale, we've 10x the business in the last year. So we're in a good, but we're happy about it. It's a nice problem to have, of course. Nevertheless, whilst we could have probably organically grown the business at a smaller rate, without that, you know, we want to go back.
Why would you? Yeah, absolutely. If you can take it on.
What's the plans for Mod Digital going forward? What's the next step for you guys?
So, with a lot of the deals that we have on the table now, we're moving more into that kind of equity structure. So we've tried commission plus fee, which has been successful in the past. We've also tried commission only, but we have to really believe in that business in order to do so.
Absolutely, yeah.
And as we build our own finances and our own cash in the business, we need places to put that, right? At the end of the year, I do have expending spree to bring the tax bill down. But it's getting to the point where that grows increasingly difficult. And I'd like to put that cash into different assets that we can scale and grow. So the near future, you know, the next 1 to 2 years, we'll be looking to actually buy into businesses that we believe in and be the entire customer acquisition portion of that business. Find someone who we really trust to do operations, someone who's got a product that people need and want, get them to effectively sell it to us. We'll come in as an investor and you know, an equity partner, scale the business, get our own investment out of it, and also then have that under our belt.
A little bit like the Alex Hormozy model, you know.
Essentially, yeah, but maybe not. We'll not be at his level yet.
Well, you know, it's a build, but you know, it is really interesting when you hold the key to serious growth for a lot of businesses, because a lot of people just won't understand this stuff.
Yeah,
and holding that key to massive success in the business, you know, they might have the fundamentals, you might have the best product in the world, but if you can't get it out to anybody and you don't understand that bit of the business, how many times you watch Dragon's Den and people come with a product that they think's amazing, but they're just going to Dragon's Den, not necessarily even for the investment, but for the access to places to sell the product.
Absolutely,
these guys are well connected.
We've had 3 clients from Dragon's Den actually. People who've been on the show, some which have been promised investment. You'll find most of the deals on Dragon's Den don't go through. Some which have been promised investment and not added, some which have been neglected, but most of the ones that we've worked with, I've thought Stephen's going to invest in that, and if he doesn't, I've reached out, or some of them have actually come to us through the other Den people.
So you're watching Dragon's Den thinking there's a business opportunity. No, that's interesting.
Now that I say that, someone else will be doing it, and I'll never be able to do it again.
Well, I mean, this is the interesting point, and I was speaking to Donald Cameron from Glasgow, Crypto Glasgow, about it, and he was just talking about the entrepreneur mind and the fact that, you know, once you get deep on entrepreneurship, it's difficult to switch off. Whether you're, you know, on holiday in a hotel and you're kind of looking around assessing the economics of how this place makes business, and, you know, sitting in front of the television watching Dragon, that's then figuring out, you know, how I can monetize this program. Every
advert you see, every billboard, every bus, they should be changing that doesn't work, change this, etc.
Never switching off is the price you pay for that.
It is, but it's also, you would switch off if you weren't enjoying it, or if you weren't interested, you would switch off. So I think it's also testament to the excitement that you get from being involved in that process as well.
Have you looked, you know, you talked about having the sort of, you know, excess business profits at the end of the year and looking for ways to reduce your tax liability. Have you looked at any of the kind of incorporating in Dubai, you know, moving to Croatia, you know, Andorra's good, I heard?
I do have friends and connections who specialize in that. So far, my accountant's done a great job of what accountants do best.
And I'm glad to see he's not put you down the route of the electric car, because I see the, you know, at the front.
Yeah, no electric car.
Yeah, do that. Not for me.
He's we can get into that as well. I'm not even convinced it's a solution for the planet, but
no, I agree, completely agree. You know, the production of lithium batteries is an absolute disaster for the economy, for the environment. So anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole, because we could be here for a while.
A very long time, yeah. We'll need to crack open that whiskey if we do.
Exactly. one of the strategies that we've looked at with some of our trading clients, because a lot of our trading clients are people who have made their money in business and want to diversify property. And there is an option, you know, if you don't want to go down the whole incorporating abroad and getting out of the UK, that there's, I don't know if you've heard of a small self-administered scheme pension fund. We've got one, we use it, but, you know, basically allows you to put a big chunk of your profits into a pension fund, pension environment every year, but a pension environment you control, not controlled by, you know, some big investment firm. The beauty of that is, you know, everybody talks about this. You get your 60k pension allowance that you can put in every year. That doesn't apply when it's a business pension fund. And as long as you've got a business, you can have this SAS.
Right.
So you can put up to $500,000 a year in it.
Okay.
Avoid corporation tax on that money. The beautiful thing is when it's in here, you can still use it.
Okay.
Because you have access to it. So you loan up to 50% of it back to the business to grow the business. If you've got any commercial assets in the business, you could buy them into your pension and rent them back. So it's very tax efficient. You get tax deductibility on that. And there's a whole bunch of other things you can invest in. And even if you're going to buy shares in companies, okay, there's a process to go through because a pension, they need to be valued and all that. You can buy shares in companies through this pension fund. So it could be that you get a double whammy of being able to invest in these companies,
right,
but still get the full tax deductibility of that money you put in the pension in the first place and buy the equities, and all you're doing is banking, you know, massive funds for the future.
And you said it was called
it's called a SAS, a small self-administered scheme, and it's just it's essentially designed as a pension fund for small business owners. To give them access to it, but what it brings is a huge amount more flexibility than a normal pension. You know, normal pension can invest in funds, or it can invest, if it's a SIP, it can invest in commercial property, and that's it. This can do a lot more than that, including loaning money back to your own company to do it. So,
very interesting.
One to think about. I wanted to go into the video I watched that you put together that I thought was really impactful.
Okay.
Your 5 tips for success in 2024, and talk about some of that advice.
Sure.
Over the course of the next few minutes. So, tip number 1: don't take advice from someone who's not been where you're trying to go. Exactly as we spoke about earlier. What's your personal experience with that?
It was. There's an old saying, right, that people want what's best for you until it's better than what they've got. Right.
Yeah.
And I think there was almost an underlying level of fear in some of the people who, you know, you get cousins' opinions, you get friends of the family, you get just friends in general. I kept my cards relatively close to my chest on the whole leaving school thing, right?
Yeah.
But when I was getting like people telling me, oh, you should go to university. This is coming from university graduates who are now, and I'm not making this as like a dig at people who are not earning a lot of money. It's just not what I personally want to do. I'm sure they get fulfillment from other areas. But when you're making, you know, 22 grand a year as a postgrad from doing 4 years at uni, and you're telling me I should go, I'm like, fuck that. It's a waste of 6 years, because I still had 2 years of high school left. A waste of 6 years of my life, getting the graduation, etc., all that, just to go in and earn that money. I'm like, why would I take your advice? Right? And the different clients I would take on, the people whose advice I would listen to the closest, was a lot of the mentors that I've had have actually been clients who have been very successful. I've had, even at 17 and 18, I was already getting clients who were making multiple millions in a year. So when you get direct access to the CEO of those companies, if you're smart, you listen closely, right?
100%.
So the best advice I've had is from people who are doing the things that I want to do, have the things that I want to have, and are living how I want to live. The worst advice, coincidentally, is the exact flip side of that, from people who talk too much and don't do enough, right?
Yeah. The whole university thing, you know, I went and done accounting finance at university, and then I got out of university, went into a job, and the first week in that job they said, right, here's a bunch of files for this branch in Russia, prepare the accounts. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm having to check online. I had to figure it out by going through all the previous accounts and documents. It took me fucking ages.
Which, if you did that as your work at the start of instead of a degree, if you've been practicing that, you'd have been able to do that before.
Exactly my point. The amount of superfluous shit that you have to go through to get a university degree versus just learning the things that are pertinent to what you need to move your business forward, or whatever it is that you choose to do with your life. You know, as long as you have a passion about it, you're going to learn, you're going to push yourself, and as long as you're improving and getting better, you can go so much further than losing 4 years of your life to, lose about 80% of what you learn because you just don't fucking need it.
And by the way, I'm not against uni entirely. I wouldn't let a doctor near me if they hadn't been.
No, sure. It has its place. I mean, there are people that need that level of detail, but even doctors, you do your 4 years, and then there's another 3 years afterwards as you start to specialise and get into the guts of the things that you really need to know. It's the same with accountancy. You do your 4 years at university, and then you have to do 3 years chartered accountancy afterwards, which is practical in the business. Okay, there's exams as well, but that's where you get to the guts of what you really actually need to learn.
Right.
It just comes so much further down the process than you being able to cut out all that crap, 15, really focus and go deep on the things that were going to make the difference to you. And, I just feel like you can go so much further. Now, Laurie and I have always said that we didn't find entrepreneurship till we were in our early 30s. And really just by getting tied up into the whole thing of, my parents weren't in a position where they would have ever been able to go to university, so it was important to them that I went. So, I went down that path and I got a good job, and I worked my ass off for 12 years traveling the world and doing whatever this company wanted me to do, and it was a fantastic experience. I learned a lot, but at the end of the day, I woke up. I'd spent 5 years in Azerbaijan. I'd missed fucking birthdays, Christmases. I dedicated my life to it. And
what's Azerbaijan like?
Oh, it's amazing. Really, it's a beautiful city. Love it. And it's a Muslim culture, but the Russians have been there for a long time because it's part of the FXU, so they're quite liberal. It's like a mini Dubai. They've got a lot of oil wealth, so the city of Baku is beautiful. It really was a great place to live. And we had this fantastic project that we did for BP, but my boss and I were running this whole thing really from start to finish. We made about 40 million, 20 million more than forecast. I got like a $12,000 bonus that year, and I thought, this is fucking nuts. I'm building this wealth for shareholders and other people, and it's never going to value me, as long as I'm willing to do whatever these guys want and go wherever they want me to go, then I'll be well looked after. But absolutely, what happens if they don't need me at some point? What happens if I don't want to go to Ghana? It's just that someone else is controlling it. It just took me way too long to realise that. Now having your own business, controlling your own life is not fucking easy.
No, and it's not for everyone.
No, it's not. And you can instantly tell, I think, speaking to someone, there's an example of this, and a guy, I'm not going to say his name because, we're on a podcast, but, things start to get difficult in his business. And, he just comes in and he's talking about all the challenges that he's got and how difficult they are. And we're just talking with him about solutions, right? You can do this, you can do that, you can do this. A month later, he comes back and he's not done fucking anything.
Any of them.
And you're like, you're on a fast track to failure here. Because if you don't deal with the big issues head on in your business, it's going to swallow you. There's no fucking about it when you're in business, And I think a lot of people just can't deal with that. They'll just bury their head or...
Nah, definitely not. And I think there's a few, you see a few different examples, right? You get the guy that starts because the labourer who's really good at labouring starts his own construction company, which goes because he doesn't have a clue about his numbers, how to manage his staff, etc.
A lot of different elements to it.
I think you also get the people who... I have a rule internally in my company, but also in myself, which I very seldom, I try to always never approach somebody. I try to never approach somebody with a problem without coming up with a solution first. And if I don't have a solution, if I really can't think of one, of course, I'm going to go to them and still let them know about the problem. But we go with the potential solutions, but we don't leave with a list of potential solutions. We leave with the one we're going to start with. What are we going to walk out of this meeting room with right now and execute? Where do we want to be in a week, 2 weeks, a month? And what does a successful implementation of these solutions look like in terms of escaping the problem? And I think almost having that marketing background and having that approach to marketing where it's like, these are our pain points, these are solutions that we're promising our product solves, I try and apply that elsewhere. These are my own personal pain points.
Yep.
What would someone need to come along and sell me right now? And can I invent that myself, or can I find another way? It's my biggest frustration as a partner in these companies and not having full control over every single part of the customer acquisition. You know, we can deliver exceptional leads, but if their sales team shit at closing, they're going to cull me before they're going to cull the sales team, some of them, even though it's far from my fault. I look at some of the leads and I'm like, head in my hands, how are you not closing this deal?
Why are you not?
The person has told you everything that you can do for them. They've told you their budget. So why are they not money in your pocket?
Yeah.
And it's those problems that frustrate me. And then when you outline that, you present all of the facts, all of the findings, and you go and you say, look, this is the root cause. These are your options. What you're going to do? I think I'll do this one. Come back a month later, it's not been done, and it's me that has to suffer for that. It's hugely frustrating.
Well, I mean, that's going back to the possible dynamics of how you work with people. That's where the whole, you know, kind of commission only thing falls down.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're not responsible for the entire process from start to finish, then how can you be held to account for that for you know, payments? You know? So that was tip one. And we spoke for a while on that. The second tip in your video was treat life like a war, not a battle. What do you mean by that?
Being young, I think my biggest thing I've had to work on. As we grow older, we learn to bite our tongue a little bit more often, right? Some of us don't. I've met plenty of adults that can't do that. But typically as a child, you're known for not thinking before you speak, right? That's the thing the teachers say, the thing your parents say. And I think a lot of people don't carry that with them, or maybe they learn it in some scenarios, but not in all.
Yeah.
For me, you know, it goes back to that. You'll have probably seen it in a lot of places, but the whole chessboard thinking, right? Don't just think about moving the pawn to kill one piece because you might expose your queen, or you might expose your knight, right? For me, it's about thinking of the long-term implications of what I say or what I do. For example, in those scenarios I've just described where a client can be doing something wrong and it's me that's suffering from it, I kind of have two options where I can pick up the phone and say, are you fucking kidding me right now? But all that's going to do is make them resent me more and make me more likely to get called off from the partnership. So it's about understanding and really articulating your thoughts in a way that won't shoot you in the ass, but also looking at what the implication will be in 5 moves down the line of you saying this one thing. I have a great example where I made a website for someone like 2022 was when the contract pen went to paper. Now, this was someone that were starting as a side project. It wasn't a serious business for them, which became abundantly clear. And there was 3 shareholders. One of them dropped out, which was the person who was not key in the percentage that they owned, but key in getting the business up and running. Their specific expertise was needed. And that all came crumbling down because somebody else the government came out with a solution to the problem before they had solved it. So the government's doing it, everyone's just going to use the government solution instead. Now, I still done the work. I built the website that they needed. We facilitated everything that was required in the contract, but because now their business model is flawed and shit because they didn't move quick enough, they're reluctant to pay. So that's one of those scenarios where I can go apeshit on the phone. I can come up with all sorts of threats that I like. I can say it's contracted, we'll take legal action.
Yeah.
Or I look at what I actually want. What do I really want from this? I want my money, right? I can live without however many couple grand it was that I needed. So we boil it down into a scenario where how can I give them what they want, or give them the illusion of them getting what they want, make it easier for them to get what they want, whilst I still get my money at the end of the day. And that's kind of what it was. They tried to put me in a few verbal traps, tried to sort of bait me into arguments, tried to sort of lay these verbal traps for me to bite back and get angry, to give them an excuse not to give me the money. But instead, again, kept my ego in check, because while they were pretty offensive, I didn't care, because I know I'm just going to cut these people off. They mean nothing. I'll take their money, get that problem solved, and then we'll move forward.
It's about the end result, right?
Absolutely.
You know, I do think there is too much short-term thinking out there. And I think as your business gets bigger, it can get easier to make those short-term, thinking mistakes that are not good for the strategic long-term. Best example in our business of this is really when clients come to work with us, there's 3 levels they can work with us, whether it's someone who's just getting up and running and started and maybe get their first few deals done. We've got kind of mid-level clients who are ready to scale a bit more, maybe going to do 5 or 6 property deals in a year. And then we've got consultancy clients who are guys who have made a significant amount of money in business. They've got a decent amount of equity to start with, and they're looking to scale the portfolio quickly. It would be very easy to take the big consultancy fee from someone who is just keen, likes the idea of doing big portfolio deals and growing quickly. But they're not in a position to do that. We won't let them go in at that level.
Okay.
And the short-term view would be, right, I'll just take the money. The long-term view is we want to build clients up through the levels as and when it's right for them. And take a long-term growth that's better for client retention and it's better for the value of our business in the long run. This was another piece of advice we were given by a multi-millionaire that we work with who's just sold his business for something in the region of about 6 mil. You have to, with any business, the value of the business is inherently in what someone will pay for it.
Absolutely.
Okay, you have cash flow and it can generate a lot of profit and a lot of cash in a year, but, if it's heavily reliant on you, then it's not transferable.
Agree.
And where inherent value comes, particularly in the type of business that we have, is one, the systems and processes, so it is robust enough to survive without you, and 2, the loyalty of your client base and the long-term nature of that. So, we could easily just be dealing with clients for a year, getting the most out of them and letting them go on and do the thing, but we're much more interested in retention, because retention is where it's at in this type of business, and in mine, and in yours, the value of your business will be defined by that. That's one of the key parameters for it, and we hadn't thought about it in those terms before, and because this was just our first year of this new model where the business had 10x'd, and it was not something that was massively on our radar, but thankfully we'd had that conversation before our first clients were coming up to the first year renewal, and trying to see how we could make it the best scenario for them. So that is definitely something that a lot of people struggle with in building a business, is trying to think longer term and not take short term views.
And that's one of those things you just said there, is a lot of people will then go in and hypothesize, how can we make the client stay longer? How can we, what can we add? What do they need, right? The best thing to do is just ask them. People come out with this bullshit that the client doesn't want. It might just be like, actually, can you just kind of have an extra meeting with me once a week, or keep me in the loop? Can you give me an update every week, a little video or a slideshow or something like that? It doesn't need to be this crazy invention. Like, people are adding apps to their communities and to their course businesses, and it's like, they don't want an app, they just want another course about this little niche topic which you've not covered, right? But the problem is they go in with the hypothesis without developing that based on real feedback.
There's a lot of benefit in test and measure and low cost to market attempts. So best example of this from our business is we were planning to launch our fully online property training course, basic course to help people that are really just starting, don't know anything about property investment.
Right.
So we recorded it, 15 hours of content, all posted online. We thought, it was going to be a really low price point for this sort of thing. So like 400 or 500 quid, probably even less because I think we're discounting it. And we thought, right, this is, we had in our head, this is what people wanted. And it was going to be a really valuable lead generator for us going forward. We spent 20 grand on an STV ad over Christmas in January, launched it, and it was a massive fucking flop. Connor advises me that over the course of the 12 months after that, we did get the money back that we'd spent on the advert, but the point was just we had massively misjudged what clients wanted. And what most of our clients have wanted in the long term is more support, more help from us, more access to deals so they can physically, the training is valuable, but only insofar as they're able to execute it.
Yep.
And that's where they needed that extra level of help. We run our training business for the first 2 years where it was just a 4-day event. We trained them, they left, and that was it.
Yeah.
And we weren't building a business, because every time you've got a new training event, you've got to fill it.
Yeah.
Now we're building a business because we're going to retain clients.
Yeah.
It's repeat business. We're trading deals to them all the time. We're supporting them build. It goes both ways, and we've created a network. Yeah. We just didn't understand it at the start. But we made some assumptions. We put a big amount of money behind it, and it was fucking wrong. So there's a value, I think, at the start of a business of just trying to find a way to test something cheaply as fucking possible before you go big on it.
And that's something that we're advising our client right now on. We've got a new client which sells a very unique cleaning product. It's it's almost like a sawdust type of thing, right? And they come up with ideas on how to market the product. They come up with ideas on different brand names, on different package names, right? And it's like we're arguing as 5 people on what's going to be the best name here. Yeah. My suggestion: let's take all of our 10 different names, create a very simple square image, put it on Facebook and Instagram adverts, put £10 a day behind them, run it for a week. It's a pretty cheap, or even £5 a day, right? Depending on how much money you have and how important the decision is to be substantiated with a high amount of data, or if you can make the decision on a lower amount of data, right? And we got identical imagery. The only thing that's going to change is on that imagery, what is the product name? What is the package name that we're selling? So there'll be a product, right? It could be a pack of 6 glasses, but the bundle name can be 6 shiny sparkly water glasses. 6 sturdy, I'm running out of ways to sell glass. 6 sturdy juice glasses for dinner, right? Yeah. Same thing, same occasion with product packaging. They're like, oh, we need to make a final decision on packaging. There's an 8-week turnaround to getting it to the factory. Like panic stations, what we're going to put on the packaging. I'm like, let's just do a very simple run 10 adverts at the same time, and let's monitor the engagement on each of these adverts with different packaging. Everything else on the advert stays the same, except the packaging. This one's got double the likes of everything else. This one's got double the impressions, the clicks. We look at what metrics are relevant, right? And then we get our answer, and it's cost us 200 quid rather than 8 weeks printing the wrong packaging. And what's the opportunity cost that's lost, right? If double the amount of people are clicking on this one advert versus the others, then the opportunity cost when that's on a shelf, you could have double the customers picking it up off the shelf and buying it. So it's a really, really low cost in terms of what you have to take out your pocket and spend, but it's also going to save you a fortune when it comes to how you use that data.
Massively valuable in terms of just refining it, because these are the things that make the difference, especially when you're dealing with the product. That there are intricate perceptions of people that you'll never get until you put it out into the public.
Absolutely.
It's always really interesting. So tip number 4, treat your body like a business. I think that's very relevant, something that resonates with me, because I am terrible for focusing too heavily on business and work and not yourself. And there was something very powerful you said, which was, someone who's well will have 1,000 wishes, whereas someone who's unwell will have one, which is obviously to be better. We're not very good at looking after ourselves as a nation. We're not very good at eating the right things, exercising. I've seen the massive transformation in your capabilities as a human when you have the right sort of regime and routine in your life, whether that's the right amount of exercise, the right time of day, eating the right things. I find I'm a lot sharper in the afternoon if I don't eat lunch, whereas otherwise I'll hit a wall at 3 o'clock and then my productivity dips. Understanding yourself, understanding your body, and making sure that you're looking after your well-being. Is that the sort of thing that you were talking about?
Absolutely. And I don't think there is, so many people are desperate for this one true routine to follow. The best routine is the one you stick to, right? The one that works for you. I would say, set the non-negotiables. It's minimum 8 hours of sleep for me, because otherwise I slog, kind of similar to you. It's actually more in the morning. It's the getting started that I find difficult. And then the afternoon's fine if I don't get my adequate amount of sleep.
Yeah.
But we set the non-negotiables, we go for it, we get the exercise in, and we don't eat shite, and we're fine. Yeah. Right? It doesn't have to be some crazy...
massively complex.
Yeah.
And this is probably a lot of the confusion around it, because, just look at social media every day. It's fucking confusing about what you're supposed to eat and what you're not supposed to eat. Yeah. Certainly if you look at all of the different information that's out there of this is bad for you, that's bad for you, it's really hard to keep track. To a point where I've stopped watching any of the Netflix documentaries about veganism or health. It's just too much, and I know I can't stick to it. So
absolutely, and you'll find that for every piece of evidence that says this is good, you'll find equal and opposite, this is bad for you, and it's just an absolute plague of this is good, this is bad, and such polarized opinions as well. You have to be either 100% vegan or a carnivore that only eats steak for breakfast, and it just ends up, as you say, complicating things. And then what people do, information overload, don't follow any of them. They just go back into shite.
Just stick to the routine and eating shite and not looking after yourself. But you can only show people the door. You can't make them walk through it. But all I can emphasize to anybody that is, struggling with, their drive, the amount of energy they've got, there's, metabolism, everything for me comes back to exercise. And what works for me is 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm either in the gym or playing tennis, or I've got something on, because that will charge me for the day. And I'm a different person when I come into the office when I've not done that. But again, it's like figuring out what works for you. There's, the health statistics in Scotland are horrendous. So you are fighting an uphill battle just living in this country.
Absolutely.
It's very important. Tip number 4, controlling impulsiveness.
Sort of similar to what we've touched on already, right? Looking at that war, not a battle.
Yeah.
But impulsiveness, what I really meant in point 4 there was controlling the impulse to do things that feel good short term. So it's like short term gratification, as opposed to making a short term decision that'll sting you later on in the strategy and the dealing with people and the war and the battle. This is more like, don't buy that thing you don't really need because it looks fancy on the shop in the shop right now. Again, specifically as a younger person, but throughout most people's lives, they buy things they don't need. The same old saying, right? You buy things you don't need to impress people you don't like.
Yeah.
And same in business. I bought things that one client's not even asked for, but I've just had the idea that, we need a drone shot for this project. And without exercising the potential to use a stock video, which will cost me a tenth of the price, and then never needing the drone for another year, that sort of thing, right? I always use the drone example because it's the big standout one to me, was why the hell did I buy this thing?
Yeah.
But so many people, business owners, I speak with a lot of young entrepreneurs who are at the start of their journey, and they're all like trying to buy stuff that they think they'll need. And I'm like, just either hang on to the cash just now, because you don't know what's about to hit you around the corner. You don't know what client's going to leave next month due to unforeseen circumstances. And you're going to need that cash to cover your costs. And I think the control and the impulsiveness is just like, think before you make the decision.
Yeah.
Give it time. There's no abundant rush to do something. If there's a real rush to make that purchase, then it won't be impulsive. You'll know why you need to make that decision. But if it's something that you can comfortably sit on for 2 weeks, 14 days, 10 days, then you sit it out, you wait it out, and then you make the decision after that.
I think, my general kind of approach to life is predominantly success comes from doing the difficult things. And if anything seems too short-term, too easy, it's probably not the right thing to do. I've never been much of a consumer. I've never been drawn by that. So it's an easy one for me to say, delay gratification, push yourself harder, make the difficult decisions day to day, because it will give you an easier life in the long term. There's that classic meme on Instagram where you see, short-term easy decisions lead to this path versus long-term hard decisions lead to this path. Yeah, I mean, it's just principle. And finally, tip number 5, make brothers, not connections.
Absolutely. I think 2023 I spent over 20 grand on travel and networking. And that is because of the value that I place on that as a whole, right? I think the connections that I made in 2023 are next to none, right? The people that I now have, I have a good example where small situational but a very helpful thing. Stayed in a hotel in Milan, girlfriend left her AirPods. I knew a guy in Milan, picked them up and shipped them to me the next day, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, these things can come in handy, but I'm also going back there. We're going to have dinner. We're going to have conversations. Those guys are also now in a position where they might be able to help me with the big problem I was talking to you about. Is some of the client sales teams aren't very good. Some of them are doing the selling themselves also. They do sales training and they've got sales reps, right? So now we're looking to do an integration with each other where they can bring their sales reps into the acquisition that we're doing, and they can close the leads. And the thing with all of these people is I don't strive for these kind of disingenuous relationships where it's like, oh, we'll get a picture together, like, oh, look, I know this guy sort of thing. And I don't endeavor to do that. I endeavor to build a solid relationship with these people, and I endeavor to be as good a friend as I can to them, because that's how you get that back, right? If you can reciprocate it, you invest in the people that you like and you do it without expectation, that's how you form it, right? A real brother.
And that's the point, it's less about, reciprocation. It's about, being forthcoming with help and support.
Absolutely.
Without any expectation of...
I use the word brother in a literal sense, because if my brother has a problem, I don't fix it because I want him to do something for me. I fix it because he's my brother. And that's why I use the term there. And that's why I place so much emphasis on building this circle of guys who truly want you to win as well. And guys who don't, as I said earlier, people want you to do well until you're doing better than them. People who will root for you and continue rooting for you no matter where you are in life, and you'll do the same for them.
I think it's very true, the adage that, your network is your net worth, and the stronger you can build that network, it almost surpasses the strength of your business, because if the business went down tomorrow, you have the connections and capabilities to build it all back up
Absolutely.
again. And that is massively powerful for anybody. The reality is, a lot more and more, it's getting harder for people to form true connections in the world because of social media and the way we communicate. And even when you've got, Laurie and I have got close friends that we've known from school, but we won't spend much time with them.
No.
Because they're kind of stuck in this time period in life where, you know, their weekends are dominated by watching the football or going to the pub, and that's just not us, you know. It's not where we're at in life, and it's not what fills up our cup, you know. So
the experiment I run leaving school was, I'll just not contact them, and the ones that contact me, they'll be the ones that I go on and continue keeping in touch with. And those examples there, the network is your net worth, absolutely. But in that formation of a brother, as I call it, I didn't know I was gonna need those AirPods shipped, right? I didn't build it with the expectation that I'm going to need them. Yeah. But it's one of those things that through serendipity and through pure chance, something might come up and you might need to rely on that person. And you want to find the people that you know, if you did run into that trouble, you could rely on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Flynn, I always end the podcast with the same question, which is, what does real wealth mean to you?
Real wealth, what does it mean to me? I think flashy cars. No, I'm kidding. I think real wealth to me is the ability to go wherever you want, physically, location-wise, to be able to go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Real wealth.
Just, you know, I take it you have a passion for traveling and seeing the world, and, you know, that's been a
100%
focus for you. Where's your favourite place in the world?
Edinburgh.
Really?
I love it.
Yeah.
I think I get a lot of, look, I love most of the places that I've been and go, but home is always going to be home. I think it's a great city. And I'll stick by that. But we've still got more to tick off, Alex, so you never know.
Yeah. Have you been to Lake Como?
I've not been to Lake Como. I'll be there next month, though.
Wow, man. I mean, that place is incredible. You know, don't get me wrong, I think Scotland has a huge amount to offer, and we have some amazing, you know, views and vistas, but, man, the weather gets me down. Flynn, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot for doing this. If our listeners are looking to reach out to you, check you out, where is the best place to get you?
FLXNN on Instagram has everything. Everything else is connected to that, so that's the best place. My name, but with an X instead.
We'll stick that in the show notes anyway. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alex.
Cheers.